Good old Christmas in July. Today I am sharing with you some of my old neutral Christmas decor that will fit perfectly into this mid-year celebration without feeling too much like winter.
I'm taking 2 Dollar Tree wood rollers and 2 5-gallon paint stir sticks. On the rollers, I'm going to remove the colorful measurement stickers. Then I want to cut all the sticks down to remove that hole on the rollers and then also that handle on the paint sticks. We're going to create Christmas trees, and I wanted 2 different sizes. Then I'm taking some hot glue to attach the sticks at the top. You could use a stronger adhesive, but there will be more elements to this, so the hot glue is just fine. Next, I grabbed some poster board to cover up the face of the trees. My son really wanted to be part of this video, so he grabbed his shark puppet named Chomp, and Chomp had to make an appearance and help cut the poster board.
Oh, are you recording?
I will say I didn't really think this part through though. We will be adding clay on top, and the weight was probably a little too heavy for the poster board. Foam core board or cardboard would work much better, but I made the poster board work. Now for the decorative elements, I'm using the Sculpey air dry clay. I have not used this brand for air dry clay before, but I love their polymer clay. Usually I use Das air dry clay, and I really love that brand. Next, I'm taking this Regal Trimmings mold from IOD, and I'm going to use all of the different trims to cover the face of the tree. I got this idea from Pinterest and thought it was so beautiful. You always want to make sure to dust cornstarch in your mold before adding the clay. That way it doesn't stick and comes out easily. Then I like to roll my clay into a snake before pushing it into the mold, but I do see some people just take a ball of clay and go straight in, so whatever works for you. I like to smooth out the top as much as possible, and I saw Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs use her Cricut scraper to do this recently. It was such a good idea, and it works really well. Then to attach the mold pieces, I'm using my Titebond Quick and Thick glue, and I added the clay while it's still wet. I could see right away when I put that first piece down, the poster board was bowing in the middle, and instead of just getting something stiffer right away, I took another roller and placed it in the middle just to temporarily hold it up. Don't ask me why, I probably should have just gotten something more sturdy. Then I use my tissue blade to cut that excess trim off the sides. This is linked in my description box and is a must-have tool in my opinion when working with clay. I alternated between all of the different trims in this mold and added them all the way up the tree. And my son was really into helping me this day, so you're gonna see him helping as well. He did a really great job. I let the clay dry overnight, and I really enjoyed this brand. It did not shrink or crack as it dried. However, the tree was front heavy and would not stand up on its own. No fault to the clay, so I glued a few Jenga blocks to the back. That didn't help. So I grabbed some Dollar Tree rocks and stacked those up on top of the Jenga blocks to help weigh the back down. I did not put a back on this tree, but I do want to go back and do that just to finish it off and make it look a little bit nicer and also hide those rocks inside. Next, I painted my tree in the color Sandcastle by Dixie Belle to go with my home decor. You could paint this any color you like and then let it dry. Then I took Dixie Belle's Best Dang Wax in white to bring out all those gorgeous details in the molds. I painted the second larger tree in a slightly darker color called Burlap and gave it that same white wax as well. You could also do a dark wax or even dry brush over the top with a pop color. The possibilities are endless.
This is a fence post.
Post that was in the 70% off section of Home Depot. I'm assuming because it has like gouges taken out of the wood. So I got it 70% off, and we are going to cut this guy down into houses. I'm sorry my shoulder is completely in the way here, but I'm just measuring how tall I want my houses to be from the base to the peak of the roof. And I ended up getting this $20 fence post for only $2 from that 70% off section at Home Depot. Such a great deal. To cut them down, I'm using the big monster chop saw. And after I have my 6 blocks, I need to change the angle of my saw blade to cut the roofs. I did a few of them at 45 degrees and a few at 30 degrees. Since these wood blocks are pretty small, I didn't want to hold them, so instead I grabbed a clamp to hold the block against the saw fence, and then I can safely cut the angles for the roof. This saw creates so much dust. I wish I had a dust collector, but R2-D2 will have to work for now to clean up. Next, we need to sand everything down, and since this fence post was so rough, I used my orbital sander with an 80 grit paper. After the houses are pretty smooth, I'm going to paint them. 2 I painted with my favorite fawn color right now, watered down. 2 I watered down a white for a whitewash, and then 2 are solid black. Now I'm going to add holes into the roof for my chimney using my 7/8 inch spade bit. I needed the hole to be at an angle, and I found the easiest way to do this is to go in straight to start and then gently raise your arm while you're still drilling to create the angle for the chimney so it's straight up and down. Then using this 3/4 of an inch copper pipe I had left over from the last candlestick holder I made, I will link that video if you haven't seen it. I'm going to take my pipe cutter and cut this down for the chimneys. All that's left to do is add the candles. So here's the Pinterest version and mine. I love how minimal and modern these look. I have been looking for spindles everywhere in my area, found this trio of chairs at the Goodwill bins for only $6 for 3. I knew I could take them apart and use the spindles, so that's exactly what I'm doing. For this project, I'm only using 3 of the spindles in 3 different sizes and sanded them down a little bit, only because there were some nicks in the wood and scratches and I wanted to smooth those out. Then I painted all 3 white. I love these round brushes for painting spindles. They make it so easy. This one's from Dixie Belle, but I know there are others out there. Next, I'm painting the tops of the spindles black because these are going to be little snowmen and the top is their hat. I wanted each snowman to have a different face, so I drew it on with pencil first and then filled them in with the black paint and then orange paint for the carrot nose. I wanted to put the snowmen in a group as a little family, and I had this decorative wood piece from Dollar Tree, so I stained it in dark walnut. Then I attached the spindles to the wood piece by drilling a pilot hole and then screwed them in. But I definitely did not wait long enough for the stain to dry. I got my stain-covered fingers all over the white paint and had to touch it up. I also should have thought about giving them buttons before attaching them, but that's okay. I went in with my dotting tool and added them all down the front. Then to dress them up a little bit, I grabbed some fabric that I have and cut strips for a scarf. I wish I had more of this Dollar Tree cotton fabric in another print because I used an actual scarf for 2 of the snowman and it's actually a little bit bulky. But that's it for these guys. I think they are super adorable. But I'm using 27 blocks for this first part and gluing groups of 3 blocks together. So you'll end up with 9 groups of 3 blocks each. Next, I'm gluing the 3 block sets together to form a square, and I'm alternating the direction of each block set. Now, you really aren't going to see this pattern in the end, unfortunately, but I still like how it looks. So one set will be vertical, the next horizontal, and then vertical, and for the next row you do the opposite. So it's vertical, horizontal, vertical. That's the first part of this project. Next, I'm making another square, but it will look a little different. This time you need 8 blocks and each side of the square will have 2 blocks. Then I'm making one more square, the same as the last one, except each side has 1 block, and we're making this one 2 rows tall. Now I'm putting the pieces together. This is going to be the base for what we're making, and why I'm wondering if it's cheating, but the pattern square is the bottom since it's the largest. Then the large single block square goes on top, and the 2-row small square goes in the center of that. And that's it for the block portion. So let's move on to the rest of this project. I saw this beautiful berry tree on the Kirkland's website for originally $200, and I knew I could recreate that much cheaper. So far, we are $1.25 in with the Jenga blocks, and the berries are the most expensive part. I got mine from Walmart, and they were $4.48 for each pick. I know that can get pricey. I spent $50 here, but the quality of these berries is so good. And I picked up 11 picks, but I actually think the tree could have used 1 more. So if you recreate this, pick up 12. Now, Hobby Lobby also has some great berry picks, but theirs are even more expensive. And to be honest, they look very similar to the Walmart ones. Okay, now to build the tree, I need a branch, and I had one laying around, but you could also get one for free from outside. And I learned my lesson from last week's duping through the holidays video and used floral foam to secure my branch in place. I also go back later and fill the sides plus cover the top of the foam with hot glue because the branch was wobbling around. My branch is about 31 inches tall, and my tree ends up being about 46 inches tall in total, which is a little bit shorter than the Kirkland's version at 51 inches. Now I'm moving into the living room because this thing is so tall, and of course, as soon as I get my lighting and everything set up, Mr. Sarge thinks the spotlight is all for him. He is so handsome. Anyways, moving on, to attach the berry picks to the branch, I'm using floral tape. If you've never used floral tape before, it's soft to the touch, not sticky at all, but you stretch it and wrap it onto itself and then it sticks together. I found it easier to rip a long piece of the floral tape and wrap it up rather than leaving it on the roll, and this floral tape is also from the Dollar Tree. I also started out attaching the picks too close together, and looking at the Kirkland's version, it is more sporadic, which I liked. So that's the nice thing about using floral tape. It's easy to take it off and move things around as needed. When adding each new branch, I bent the bottom of the pick so it would stick out from the tree as far as I wanted it. At the top of the tree, most of the pick stem was wrapped up in that floral tape, and as I went down the tree, less and less of the stem was attached, so the branches looked like they were longer at the bottom compared to the top. Here you can see where I had to fill in the base with glue. The branch was top heavy with all the picks on it and was getting loose from the foam, but the glue helped hold it from going anywhere. Once I had all the picks on the tree, I needed to paint the floral tape since it's green. You can buy brown floral tape, but I already had the green on hand. I mixed up a few brown colors I have to try and get it as close as I could to the pick stems. It's a little bit off, but that's okay. I also went in with a darker brown and a chippy brush to add details to the trunk while the paint was still wet. That's it for this guy. As a reminder, the Kirkland's version cost $200, and I didn't realize until editing this that it's pre-lit as well. I did not add lights to mine, but you easily could wrap some fairy lights around it. So mine cost $52 without the lights, and if you added 3 sets of fairy lights from the Dollar Tree, you're looking at about $56. I love this tree so much. Project, I cut 2 strands of 4mm macrame cord at 12 feet each. I had a lot of cord left over. This was the second time I did this one. The first time I ran out of macrame, which is the worst thing when doing these kinds of projects. I think 9 feet would be good, but 12 definitely worked out for me. So you want to start out with a lark's head knot, which is where you fold your cord in half, put the center of the fold under your ring, and pull the ends of the cord through the loop. And we're going to do that 2 times. Next, we'll be creating square knots, and that's the only knot used to make this tree. So to make a square knot, you use the 2 outer strands, leaving the center 2 strands stationary. And we're going to start with a 4. You're going to make a 4 with the string on your left and put the right string over top of the straight line from the 4. Take the end of your right cord under and behind the stationary center strands and up through the hole of your 4 and then pull that tight. This is 1/2 of the knot. Next, you repeat this going the opposite direction. So take the outer right strand and create a backwards 4 with the outer left strand over top of the straight horizontal line. Take the end of the left strand behind the stationary strands and through the center of your backwards 4. This time we do not want to pull it completely tight, and this is what will start to create the loops for the tree. So each knot we do, we're going to leave a little loop slightly longer than the one before. Hopefully that makes sense, but you'll see it as it goes. So moving on, we will create another 4, repeating the first half of the square knot, pulling it tight to hold the loose half of the square knot in place. Now going on to the second loop of the tree, you want to create the second half of the square knot using the backwards 4. And I kind of squish the strings together to see how long I want this loop to be before starting the next knot that's going to hold it in place. Then you're just going to repeat this process, so I'm going to let it play all the way through in case this is something you want to recreate, or feel free to skip through to see the final result. But if you're enjoying this video, I hope you will like and subscribe. That really helps my channel to grow. After you have your macrame tree as long as you want it, I left a little bit of space at the bottom to act as like the trunk of the tree. And then I'm going to take my remaining 4 strands of macrame cord and we're going to place them underneath of the ring. Now we're going to tie off a knot on the bottom of the ring so that we can make sure the tree is going to stay in place. And the way you're going to do this, we're going to take any of your strands, or you're going to do all 4 of them the same exact way. So you're going to start by looping your strand to the left side of itself. So up around the ring to the left side, pull that through. So you're just making a loop. And then you're going to do the same thing
looping it onto the right side. However, on this time, when you pull it through the ring, you want to pull it through the loop that you created underneath. So I hope that makes sense. I know explaining macrame can be very difficult, but you can see what I'm doing as well. I will show you a couple of times. Next, we're going to add a wrap portion to the bottom of the macrame hanging. This part is not necessary. You could just end it here, comb out your macrame cords, and be done with it. I like to add that finishing detail of the wrap at the end and then have my fringe. So we need a 5th strand to do this, and I just cut off a portion of one of my longer strands left over rather than cutting out a new piece and wasting it. And you want to tuck it underneath of your 4 strands so that that's in the back of your wrap. And then you're going to create a loop. So just making sure that your loop is longer than the wrap portion that you want. And then we're just going to take that string and wrap it all the way around our 4 cords and then also that loop that we just created. You want to make sure the loop is inside of your wrap. Then you're just going to wrap the cord as many times as you want, as long as you want your wrapped section to be. And to finish it off, you're going to take the end of the cord you are wrapping with and you're going to put it through the loop that we created in the beginning. And then pull both ends. So you want to make sure the end where you started is sticking out above your wrap. And then you're going to pull both ends, and that is going to create a knot and also conceal your knot inside of the wrap. Then you're going to cut off your strands to make your fringe as long as you want it. Comb it out. I'm just using a little hair comb here to comb out the strings, and then I'm taking my flat iron to straighten them out. And lastly, I'm just going to take this decoupage glue. I am using this to hold my strands in place like the branches of my tree because they were getting a little bit twisted and not staying together. So this is just going to ensure that my tree is going to stay in the exact shape that I want it to stay in. And that was it for this one. I know this was a long project. I appreciate you sticking with me, but what do you think of the final result? I found this copper oval planter at a thrift store when I was on vacation in Virginia over the summer. I paid $3 for it, and I'm just going to start out by getting those tags off and then giving this a really good cleaning. I forgot to mention in the first project, I did not clean that metal flower because I didn't want to remove any of the tarnishing that was already on there. But for this copper piece, I did want to give it a nice cleaning. Next, I'm taking some just Dollar Tree plastic bags and I'm going to fill the center of this so that it gives a little bit of height and I don't need to use as much filling. And then I'm taking this just cotton batting that you would use for upholstery, and I'm going to cut it down so that I can then kind of tuck this around those plastic bags that we inserted into the planter. And this is going to act as our snow. Next, I am taking these bottle brush Christmas trees that I bought in a variety pack last holiday season from Walmart. There were 2 larger trees, some medium trees, some smaller trees, just a really nice variety. And I'm going to start hot gluing those down on top of our fake snow just to add a little wintry forest scene inside of this copper planter. Super easy again, and I love the way this turned out. Metal is super trendy right now, so all of my projects today are going to incorporate some type of metal. But next I took another strip of my batting and I just kind of tucked it up underneath of my trees to add a little bit more snow detail, also covering up that plastic bottom of the trees that came on them. And then this just adds like an even more snowy effect. And that was it for this one. Again, so simple, and I love the way this turned out as well. This next project is inspired by the seller Woodland Edges. I love the look of this paper tree and knew it would be really easy to recreate. And for much less than $42 or the $70 if you go off the original price. Buying the paper was the most expensive part. I got these from Hobby Lobby at 69 cents each for the music note sheets and 59 cents for the solid. Unfortunately, I did not go on a 40% off day, so you could get this for even less. Then I went into my Cricut design space, but don't worry if you don't have a Cricut. I have an option for you too that will look exactly the same, so stick with me for just a minute. In design space, I went into images and searched for a scalloped square. This orange one is the one I selected and added it to my project, but I only want the outline of it, so I deleted all the other layers. Then resized the square to start at 6.5 inches. I made 3 of each size square, going down 1/2 inch at a time, all the way down to 1.5 inches. And for the solid paper, I cut out 2 squares of each size. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, don't worry. Find a pair of these fun shaped scissors and use those to cut your squares out. You'll get the exact same look, or if you don't have these scissors, use regular scissors and just cut a wavy line. For the tree stand, I found these decorative plastic bowls at Dollar Tree, and the shape and detail is perfect. I used 2 bowls and glued them together using my E6000 and hot glue for an immediate hold, and apparently I didn't record the E6000, but it's there. Then I also need some beads and a skewer stick to build the tree, so I spray painted all 3 pieces antique bronze. I planned on making 2 trees, so you'll see 2 sets here, but I ran out of time and only ended up making 1. Next, I attached the skewer to the bottom of the bowl using my super glue, and then added a big dollop of hot glue. But looking back, I probably should have added some floral foam to the bottom and then glued the skewer into that foam. You won't see it, so I would suggest that instead for more stability. Now you just need to add the paper. I used my roller to find the center of the paper and then poked a hole through the center and added it onto the skewer. I followed a pattern since I cut out 3 of the music notes and 2 solid for each size. So I added 1 music note, 1 solid, 1 music, and then a bead. Then 1 solid, 1 music, and a bead. And I followed that pattern all the way up the tree. I made a pretty darn good educated guess because this was the perfect amount of paper and beads to fill up the skewer. Once I got to the top of the tree, I glued a slightly larger bead on the very top and then filled the center of the bead with hot glue and painted over it with my spray paint to match. Last, I added a little bit of dark wax to the base to bring out the details a little bit more. I I picked up 3 of these wood cutouts from Dollar Tree and painted them with my favorite fawn color. The lighting on this first part is a little bit off, bear with me for a minute. It was the first thing I had recorded with my new camera about a month ago, and I finally figured out the settings. But after the fawn color, I'm taking Khaki and Warm Buff by Apple Barrel and a chippy brush to give all 3 trees a heavy dry brushing, semi-blending the colors together to give a more woodsy kind of vibe. And again, I just played around with the colors until I was happy with the look. I love how you can achieve a variety of styles with paint, from faux wood to faux metal to faux leather. The possibilities really are endless and a lot of fun to just play around and see what happens. If you don't like it, it's only paint, cover it up with a solid color and start over. Next, I took one of these MDF signs from Dollar Tree and painted the whole thing black. Then I added some Jenga blocks, painted the same way as the trees, and hot glued them to the back of the block and 2 trees up against those. I had wanted to make the 2 trees in the back slightly taller, but completely forgot, and then it was too late after I had glued them down. So I just added the last tree in front, and that was it for this one. Super easy. Project, I'm taking 2 Dollar Tree paper lanterns. I think you can get these all year long in the party aisle, but don't quote me on that. This gold one came with 2 different sizes, which is perfect because we're making a snowman. Now you can buy white paper lanterns, but I already had these gold ones. They've been laying around my craft room forever, and I knew eventually I would come up with something to make. So I painted them with my chalk paint. Spray paint would probably be quicker and easier since these are paper and pretty delicate, but I didn't have enough white spray paint. Once the paint was dry, I glued the smaller lantern on top of the larger one, and then I needed a base for the snowman to sit on because he has a little metal piece sticking out of the bottom. So I grabbed a little shadow box to use and added a few Jenga blocks for the metal pieces to sit between. Next, I need a hat for the snowman and just looked around my craft room for things I could use. I found this thin wood circle and a metal bucket. I removed the handle off the bucket and then glued it to the circle and painted everything black. I never mentioned this in my videos, but I use this silicone mat on top of my work surface, which you can paint directly on, and it wipes right up. Usually I'll take it over to my sink to clean up, but sometimes I will wipe up a small area right away, and you can see just how easily this comes clean with a baby wipe. And this is also linked in my description box. Now we need to bring the snowman to life. I picked up this wood-shaped variety pack a long time ago from the Dollar Tree and grabbed the 3 different size circles for his buttons and face. I painted these black as well. Then for his nose, I'm using terracotta clay and rolled it into a carrot shape. I totally forgot to hit record when I started adding the pieces onto the snowman, so his buttons and eyes are glued down, and then I added his hat and mouth. The clay nose is still drying, so I moved on to his arms. I had this large branch and cut a few pieces off to use. I did have to cut a little hole in the paper lantern to stick his arms in and put a generous amount of hot glue to hold them in place. Now, snowmen need a scarf, right? So I grabbed this snowflake fabric and cut a strip for his scarf. I wanted to take it a step further by adding fringe to the ends, so I cut thin strips all along the edge. Did you know you can also fill your silicone molds with hot glue? I created a few different snowflakes with this Hippo glue gun and painted them white once they completely cooled down. Then I added them onto my snowman for some little embellishments, and that's it for this guy. He is so stinking cute. I love him. Taking 5 of these MDF snow globes from the Dollar Tree and using a Dollar Tree scraper to remove the stickers on the back. I want to paint the backs instead of trying to cover up the fronts. I also removed the jute twine and I'm not going to use that at all. Then using my ivory chalk paint gave the fronts 2 coats, and I also painted the edges of the globes with my black chalk paint. Next, I'm using washi tape so I can add the base of the globe, again using my black chalk paint.
So I'm taking this faux leather ribbon, the kind of champagne gold color, around the edge right here. So the first one I did, if you can see, there's kind of like a gap on this side. And that's because I just cut it and then glued it down, but I realized I needed to wrap it around the side. Because look, if you just glue it down, I didn't take the black up far enough, if you can see that little gap there. So you kind of need to maneuver it down into that groove there to cover it up. So what I did was hold it, put it where it needs to go, hold it with my thumb, glue the end, and then it's going to sit exactly where it should be without having that gap. So I'm going to have to fix that other one, which is totally fine. That one's good. Hold it where I need it with my finger. And there we go. So now there is no gap on this one compared to the little gap right here on that one.
For the clay element of this project, I'm using paper clay, which is an air dry clay. Like I said earlier, this is not my preferred type of clay to use, but you do not need to bake it, and I know a lot of crafters do like the air dry clay. It's just a lot softer and more sticky in my opinion. It was sticking to my roller, sticking to my knife, it was making a mess and then drying out, making my clay look rough. But anyways, I wanted to make letters to go on the snow globes, and it took me a little bit to figure this out, so I rolled out my clay and then cut it down into a 3" by 3" square. I knew I didn't want the letter to be bigger than that, so it would fit onto the globe. And then I just freehand cut out the letters to the best of my ability. Now you could absolutely use something other than clay for this. You could use stickers or a Cricut machine or even MDF or wood letters from a craft store. Once I had all of my letters and the clay was dry, I did stick it in the oven to speed up the dry time, but I'm not really sure if you're supposed to put air dry clay in the oven. After they were dry, I needed to sand these down since the air dry clay is a lot harder to get a clean look in the beginning. You can use water and a paintbrush or your finger to smooth it out, but that just makes even a bigger mess and I wasn't feeling it. Next, I wanted to paint my letters and use this Magnolia paint by Joanna Gaines and the color Olive Grove. Thanks, Brandy, for helping me with that decision. I did not paint the backs, but did get the edges. Now to add the letters onto the globes, I'm using my favorite quick dry glue Star Bond. And Kimberly, this part's for you, girl. I tried putting the tip in Vaseline, but of course the nozzle got clogged with the Vaseline. So just wait till the next project. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong, but anyways, I thought I was done here, then after staring at it, realized it was missing something. So how about the stitching like I added on my Mary Wreath ring DIY a little while back? So I used a regular Sharpie marker and perfect, now it's complete. This one is Pinterest inspired. I think these ornament present boxes are stunning and wanted to make one that fits my home's color palette. My dad actually found this trunk sitting on the side of the road and knew I could do something creative with it. I love the shape and leather accents, but not so much that world map on it. So I cleaned it up really well and then started taping off the brown edges and leather straps, but quickly abandoned that because I do have a pretty steady hand when it comes to painting, and this was just taking too long. So you're gonna see only one spot is actually taped off. Then I painted the trunk white and I think I gave it 3 coats. Now, to add in the ornaments, I had these large buffalo check bulbs from Dollar Tree last year. They were the perfect size, but I didn't want the black. So I sanded that black glitter off and then spray painted them white. I wanted this piece to have lots of texture and different textiles because it's gonna be neutral, so I covered 2 ornaments in different fabrics. One in a thrifted sweater and then one in lace. I will say trying to cover a ball with fabric and make it look smooth was extremely difficult. If you have any tips on how to make it look smooth, please let your girl know in the comments because I seriously struggled. I knew you would not see the entire ball on this project though, so one end looks pretty rough. I also had a Dollar Tree bouncy ball from the kids section that I painted white and covered this one with that plush white car towel. These are gonna be the 3 largest ornaments. The rest of the ornaments and embellishments I either picked up at Hobby Lobby or raided my craft stash looking for anything that was white, beige, or brown in various sizes. I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty expensive project to make. Initially, I thought I'd be able to just pull from ornaments I already owned, but I wanted a very specific look and decided to just buy the bulbs that would match. Then it was just a matter of adding everything onto the box. The leather straps were not gonna work, so I did cut those off, and I wanted it to look like a cascade of ornaments spilling out of the box. So I placed the largest ornaments on first and then filled in from there. I thought it needed some more green to liven it up a little bit and pulled from various picks that I have and added little sprigs here and there. This is a project where I feel like more is more. I know most times I prefer a simpler look, but I love how this one turned out. It's so elegant and could fit into so many home decor styles, from glam to farmhouse to boho. It is quite versatile, and all of the textures and similar color tones add so much dimension. I'm duping one of the metal word signs from Magnolia, and I'm taking these skewer sticks from the Dollar Tree. They're the small ones that are out all year long, and I'm going to start measuring them out to the size I want my letters to be. I started with one of the E's because I thought that would be the easiest letter for me to gauge how tall I wanted them to be. The vertical line of my E is 3 inches tall, and the horizontal lines are 2 inches. Once I had the skewers cut, I'm using my Starbond super glue with the accelerator to attach them together. I thought this glue would work the best with how tiny these skewers are and give that immediate hold once you spray the accelerator. I do have this product linked in my description box if you're interested. I continue to do this for all of my letters, cutting them down and gluing together until it spelled out peace. Once I had all of my letters, I'm taking 7 tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree and gluing them in a line. Then I glued the letters on top of the blocks. All that's left to do now is paint this to look like metal using Rust-Oleum hammered black spray paint. Now let's take a look at how mine compares to Magnolia. I had the supplies already on hand, but if you had to buy them, this would cost $2. The Magnolia version is 9 inches tall. I probably should have checked that before making mine, so mine could have been a little bit taller, but I still think it looks pretty close. But what do you guys think?
Making a modern snowman, you're going to take 8 blocks and glue them along sides together and make 2 rows like this. I use Dollar Tree wood glue super glue for my Jenga block projects to get a cleaner look. You can definitely use hot glue, but it does leave a small gap between the blocks, which I don't like, but that's just personal preference. Once you have both rows put together, glue one on top of the other, and this is the snowman's face. Next, I'm going to build his hat. I decided to make 2 rows of 4 blocks for the brim of his hat. This time you want to glue them end to end. Now for the top of his hat, I wanted it to be a little bit narrower than the face to differentiate it, so I used 7 blocks and centered them over the face. That's it for the building portion. Now we need to paint our little friend. Nothing groundbreaking here. I painted the hat black and his face white. So shocking for a snowman, I know. Once the paint dried, it's time to decorate him. Like I said in the beginning, this is a modern snowman, so I'm not giving him a face. You absolutely could if you wanted to, but I've made quite a few snowmen this year in 2022 that I wanted to do something different. I have this metal ribbon from Dollar Tree and cut a piece to fit across the brim of his hat. Now, silver's not a color that I gravitate towards, so I grabbed my brushed gold acrylic paint and dabbed it on top of the metal. Already, I love this color so much better, but to take it a step further, I added a dark wax on top. I used my Starbond super glue with the accelerator to attach the metal. Super glue is the best option for metal. Then I realized some of the black hat was sticking out a little bit under that metal ribbon, so I touched that up with a detail brush in my white paint, and it looks so much better. Next, I added a few pine pieces and a pine cone to the corner of his hat, and that's it for this little guy. Let me know, do you like the modern snowman with no face, or do you think he should have had a face? I've only been able to find these once, but I picked up 2 packs of them, and I'm going to take them out to my garage to spray paint them using this Rust-Oleum antique brass color. I just didn't like the color that they came in, but they do sell other colors. I think they come in black, silver, and then this brass color. Next, I'm taking this reindeer that I also found at the Dollar Tree, and I started painting it with my black chalk paint. However, I always find chalk paint to scratch off of surfaces like this pretty easily unless you seal it either after you're done painting, in between coats, but put some type of sealer on it, and I just didn't want to go through all of that. So instead, I decided to spray paint it with my Rust-Oleum flat black spray paint. While I wait for all of my paint to dry, I'm taking this scrap piece of wood that I had laying around. It is 7 inches long, 1.5 inches wide, and 1 inch thick, and I'm going to find the center of my scrap piece of wood. Now, you do not have to use a scrap piece of wood if you don't have something like that for this step. You could use floral foam, you could use Jenga blocks. Dollar Tree also sells scrap wood right now, although you can get it much cheaper at the hardware store, but that's a story for another day. Point is, you can use other things if you do not have random scrap wood just lying around. I marked on my wood where the ring was going to sit at, and that's where I'm going to create a little slit in the wood. If you were using floral foam, you wouldn't need to do this step. You could just push that wreath ring down into the floral foam, glue it in place, and you're good to go. Or if you used Jenga blocks, you could just glue them on either side of the wreath ring to hold it in place as your base. I'm using a wood burning tool to create my slit. Probably not the easiest method, but it's all I could find at the time. You could also use a small chisel or a knife depending on how hard or soft your material used for the base is. Once I had my slit cut out, I'm just taking my Starbond super glue. I love this stuff. I have it linked in my description box. And then with the accelerator, I'm just going to hold it in place until it dries. Now I'm just taking some burlap to cover up the base and kind of hide where we have everything glued together, and then I'm going to hot glue it in place. My camera battery died, but you get the idea. I just basically wrapped it like a present using my hot glue. Then I'm going to glue my little reindeer down in place. I put him right on the very edge of the left side of my wood base, and then I'm going to take these floral picks that I got from Walmart in the 98-cent section. I love their Christmas floral picks. They have the best quality and they are so affordable. But I'm going to take out the berries and that additional little greenery flocked piece. I am going to use the additional greenery part, but not the berries at all. Then I'm just taking some floral wire and I'm going to wrap it around the wreath ring, holding my picks in place. And lastly, I am just adding in these macrame snowflakes that I made. I did not show them in this video, but stay tuned until next week because I have a whole macrame ornament video coming up. I'm taking a 1.5 inch wood ring
and then 10 30-inch 4mm macrame cords, and we are going to attach them to the wood ring using a lark's head knot. Once you have all 10 of your strands added to the wood ring, then I'm going to take 2 more strands the same length and I'm going to comb them out. This is going to act as the body of our angel, and then the strands we just added are going to be the wings. Next, we're going to start doing a double half hitch knot all the way around the edges of our wings. So to do this, you are going to start out with a guide strand, and that is going to be the very first one in the center, wherever you want your center to be, and you're going to take that over top of the next strand next to it. And then to create your knot, you are going to make a 4 and then like loop it around. This is basically going to create a loop, pull your string through and pull it tight. And you want to do that 2 times for each strand. If at any point you think I am going too fast here, you can slow the video down in the settings. You're going to create this double half hitch knot 18 times. You're going to have 18 individual knots going across 5 of the original strands that you added. So this is going to take up half of your angel. And once you have that first side complete, you're going to repeat the process on the second side to create both sets of the wings. And when you get to the second side, you're going to be doing this backwards, opposite from the way you did it the first time. So you're going to be coming to the left. Your guide rope is going to be coming to the left, and you're going to be creating a backwards 4 to make your loop. And then once I got to the end, my very last knot, I just tied off a basic knot at the bottom so that it wouldn't come untied. And then we're just going to comb out all of the wing ropes. And then I took my straightener and I'm just straightening those out before we cut them down to the size that we want them to be. Now, I didn't think that the body portion that I had was quite thick enough. I had only used 1 strand here, so I added in another one. That's why I said at the beginning to just do 2 strands to begin with. And then I thought it looked a little bit better. And I had it at a lark's head knot, but decided I just wanted to gather it and make it look like it was 2 separate knots. And I thought that made the body portion look a little bit better. And then I just wrapped it with a small piece of my Dollar Tree faux leather ribbon in the gold color. Now I'm just going to cut her body portion to the length that I want the tassel to be. And I always just cut off my strands where I want them, comb it out again, and you're always going to have a few stragglers that are longer and don't cut correctly. So I always just go back and forth combing it and cutting. For the angel's head, I just took an 18mm bead. I think this was an 18. It might be a 10. But anyways, we're just going to hot glue it right on top of her body in the center. And now we're going to cut her wings to shape. This actually took me quite a while to figure out how I wanted them to look. I didn't want to cut too short at first, so I just kept cutting away at it little by little, combing it out, cutting it away where I thought it needed to be cut. I also added some glue. This is decoupage glue. You could use Mod Podge, you could use school glue, whatever you wanted, just to make sure those knots are not going to come undone.